Good afternoon, folks. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ken Stone, and I'm the academic dean here at Chicago Theological Seminary. And we're expecting a few more people in a bit, but whether you're here in person or joining us via live stream, I want to welcome you to this afternoon of Riot Conversations at Chicago Theological Seminary. The Riot in RiotCon standing for Raging Issues of Today, and today our faculty and members of our community want to join together and have some dialogue around the theme of leaders for the next in an era of Neo-Reconstruction. And our professor, distinguished professor, Dr. Lee Butler, will be giving us an address on that topic in just a bit. I hope that all of you picked up a schedule of the afternoon events outside on your way in. If not, please pick one up on the way out after we're done in here. And we'll gather for lunch next door to continue the conversation from this session. So welcome, glad to see you all here.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have the great pleasure of introducing our special guest for this afternoon, as well as our distinguished speaker. Our distinguished speaker we all know and love here at CTS is our own Reverend Dr. Lee H. Butler, Jr., who is our distinguished service professor of theology and psychology. He is an African pastoral theologian in pastoral care and emerging way, of understanding pastoral theology done by persons of African descent. We all know and love Dr. Butler for his authenticity, his care and passion in teaching, his passion for pastoral care and psychology and care for this community. Our guest performer is FM Supreme. Her name is Jessica Desu. She is not only a performer, but a future CTS student in our incoming class. She is a writer, poet, educator, organizer, and activist born and raised in Chicago, and she is the founder of Chicago International Youth Peace Movement and is co-founder of the Peace Exchange and Black Youth Project 100, BYP 100. Her bio is in your program, and it is extensive, and so we are excited to welcome Jessica not only to perform today, but as a member of this community. You will hear more later on from some of our other guest artists, and we will speak of them later, but right now I want to bring to the stage our very own Akira Carr. Akira was looking for an advocate.
How you guys doing? My name is D. Supreme. I'll put 2 points. Mute up. Still. Hit on the in with the mommy kept him squassies. One time yeah for this everybody got what you say? Cameras flash on me like it's a movie, and I'm just so LL Cool J. Man, this rap game faking in the toupee, faking in the toupee, faking in the toupee. The whole rap game.
Okay, let's make it.
Hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, let's make it.
Hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, let's make it.
Hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, let's make it.
Yeah,
Okay, let's make it.
yeah. And like we all fall down, but we standing up right now. And like we all fall down, but we standing up right now. And like we all fall down, but we standing up right now. But we standing up right now. Blessing from the underground. Lands down, hands down, face down, coming up, cause crazy mama don't give a what. Blowing up, cutting up, Barack with the uppercut. Mortal Kombat on the track, Super Saiyan. Dragon Ball Z, and they know I'm not playing. Not Barack Hussein, but yes we can. Uncle Sam, please accommodate the pole. FM Supreme, I'm straight from the go. Soldier at war, we say what up, Joe. Nation of Islam, hello, Mr. Lewis, a daughter and a student. Supreme, I'm so prudent. If I have a daughter, I'ma name her Judith. But where this all started was a foster child, and now it make my mama smile. I bet my real daddy proud, but the pain behind my eyes, too real to pretend. Much more than you can comprehend. Started writing raps when I was 10, way before my discipline days. Young misfit girl of rage, found my power in pain. Born to speak the truth, born to teach the youth. Baby girl, I pay my dues. Baby girl, I pay my dues. Baby girl, I pay my dues. Is it I pay my dues? Yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. Okay, let's make it push. 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 Okay, let's make it. Ooh, she tried to do me. It's not no movie. My real life, it been real strife. Just ask Susie, my sister. The doctors took her and gave her pills up a hooker. My other sister, she had to hustle. It's trouble. 1 plus double. I said it's trouble. I'm ready. Said I'm ready. Just come and get me. Confetti and Serengeti. Dizzy Gillespie. I'm ready. Said I'm ready. Come and get me. Push. Pray till something happens. Thank y'all.
Good afternoon. My name's Akira. I'm going to perform a piece for you guys. It's called Ready or Not. You might recognize some of the lyrics, so when the part come up, you can sing along. All right. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. I'm going to find you. The words of the young Lauryn Hill still piercing communities today. Still teaching them things like how to walk, talk, and think. Knowing that her message would reach the multitudes, she became a blueprint of how to really love the inner you. You see, for her, the message was very clear. Love God, yourself, and others, and you'll shift the atmosphere. I guess Shorty was just trying to create a good message for the kids to combat all the BS they'll naturally hear. During that time, it seemed like such a great year to have everybody singing, ready or not, here I come, you can't hide. I'm gonna find you. But for me, the message was still staticky. I mean, how do I live in a world? How do I live in this world and only have love matter for me? For a mother that I had to see struggle day in and day out, a father that became so estranged I can't even remember his name, it's far too common of a picture frame. And you know a grandmother who will always be there to wipe every tear, such a loving teddy bear, to always keep near. Society reminded me of statistics of the at-risk youth actually making it. And I guess all I can do is close my eye and pray for strength. Close my eyes to the political climate that always seeks to send me astray. I mean, they were never really on my side at the end of the day. Police departments clearly still thinking that they're catching slaves. Don't believe me? Check the stats. It's all there. They dismantle more and more black bodies every year. We must recognize that the system never wanted us here. Never nothing more than property from the view of their eyes and ears. And as my girl Maya Angelou would say, Ain't I a woman? And a phenomenal one at that. So I shift the paradigm by changing my mindset, give a new diaspora and frame of context. I now create my own picture since I took my pen back, like the new Lauryn Hill singing the same old track. Ready or not, here I come, you can't hide. I'm gonna find you. That's it.
Good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to this space, on this day, and this time for us to reflect together on leaders for the next in an era of Neo-Reconstruction. Chicago Theological Seminary is committed to preparing leaders for the next moment or the next movement of the people. Our educational emphases encourage exegetical, hermeneutical, and cultural analysis of the living human document. Knowing something of the contextual social history not only provides insight into the present moment, that knowledge also suggests the most effective leadership agenda for engaging the dynamics that shape the context. As America faces the 2040 demographic shift, fear has gripped the land. 2040 is the year when the minority group, thought to be the servants of the majority, will become the majority within a society whose democratic principles declare majority rule. Fearful of that moment, leadership has emerged to rewrite the rules of democracy. Under the new democratic principle, the new minority will rule. In the recent past, when America wrestled with the dynamics of majority-minority interactions, those negotiations were informed by integrationist ideologies. That, however, is not this time. Not wanting to appear less democratic or un-American by advocating segregation, this new moment is advocating disintegration by repealing progressive legislation perceived to privilege the minority over the current majority. So, how might we understand this current moment that declares itself a movement to make America great again? Human existence is dynamic. While one might suggest that there are moments of human stagnation, those moments tend to be interrupted by a longing in the soul that erupts into a moment of transgression that results in a new norm. Consequently, human relationships are fraught with challenge and crises. With every new moment of interruption and disruption, one or a few persons step forward who are authorized to help reorganize the people into a new community or to help them to return to an old community. In Lorraine Hansberry's play, A Raisin in the Sun, an all-white neighborhood discovers that a black family is about to move into their community. not desiring such a change, the white community gets together and sends a representative to buy the house from the black family to persuade them not to integrate the community. Whether times are good or bad or happy or sad, leadership always emerges to describe the context and to articulate a vision and pathway that directs people to a place of comfort and security. The dynamism of human existence can provoke a feeling of uncertainty about the future. Unfortunately, most people do not like their lives left to chance. Leadership, therefore, should always be understood as a contextual expression of advocacy and facilitation. While leadership does not always mean standing out in front of the people, leadership always listens to the voices of the people, cares for the rhythmic or arrhythmic beating heart of the people, and laments the pain and suffering experienced by the people. Leadership must offer a full description of the contextual reality in order to advocate and facilitate justice, love, and human dignity. During the mid-19th century, the landmass identified as the United States of America was divided into 3 geographical regions: North, South, and West. A line was drawn through the East Coast states in the 18th century, the Mason-Dixon line, to differentiate northern states from southern states. The Western region was the new frontier, ripe for the taking. Whereas the colonial and revolutionary periods established the frame of freedom, the antebellum period of the mid-19th century stressed the reign of freedom. The antebellum period redefined the 3 regions as 2 nations and a territory. Each region embraced its own sense of fulfilling the promise of life, liberty, and property. Over time, those geographical regions took on the new ideological labels of the Union, the Confederacy, and the territories. Regardless of the region, each was framed, informed, and narrated by the concept and constructs of conquest and freedom. Within America, declaring one's humanity invokes the right to exercise resistance from oppression. As a result, fighting for freedom from tyranny is regularly justified as a moral act. From this reasoning, if anyone oppresses you, they are denying your humanity. The nation's framers established the fight for freedom to be a sacred act of the human spirit. Freedom was thought to be clearly understood by all who staked a claim and occupied the land. Yet freedom is actually an elusive guiding myth. The antebellum period, therefore, was the moment that brought the first challenge to the meaning of freedom. America emphasizes freedom, which tends to be defined through the ideology of democracy. Contrary to popular identifications of America, however, the antebellum period was not governed by democracy founded on freedom. The antebellum period was instead governed by slaveocracy founded on unfreedom. Slaveocracy is an institutional system of exploitation dedicated to keeping a group enslaved by defining living and relationships politically and economically. The system dichotomizes humanity, not just in terms of have and have not, but also politicizes every human relationship to determine human contact and social status, making all life decisions based upon one's perceptions of the other. Slaveocracy demoralizes and degrades humanity in the name of national survival. For national security, slaveocracy declares that those who have been robbed of human agency must be exterminated. The result? Everyone deemed subordinate and subhuman became the carnage of a capricious nation. We are still holding our breath to avoid breathing the stench of decaying bodies slaughtered by the sins of racism, genderism, heterosexism, homophobia, and classism. With slaveocracy as the governing paradigm, the antebellum period was replete with regressive behavior and extreme violence. In order to find a new way forward in the 21st century, leaders for the next must see the antebellum period's continuing legacy of slaveocracy, war, and Reconstruction. Reconstruction, before we can talk about Neo-Reconstruction. Reconstruction, which was the period between the years of 1862 and 1877, cannot be discussed without acknowledging the destructive aggressions that sought to restore the social orders of slavery and the Confederacy. Eric Foner speaks of this in his book about Reconstruction, where he notes that Reconstruction of the South, the South's white community, banded together to restore white rule, home rule, a euphemism for white supremacy. All told, Foner says, Reconstruction was the darkest page in the saga of American history. Reconstruction is the period in American history marked by Civil War and post-Civil War agendas that redefined freedom through interpretations of slavery. It's a given that war is violent. Yet the post-war work of forming a more perfect union was exceptionally violent. The deconstruction component of Reconstruction acted violently to continue the commodification and criminalization of black bodies in an effort to reconstruct the deconstructed Confederacy. Threatened with extinction during Reconstruction, white supremacy acted against black bodies with the brutality of chattel slavery by fashioning itself as a savior who rode into the night to restore a fantasized genteel way of life. After the Confederacy was demoralized by the loss of the war, property and prosperity, Southerners sought to lift themselves from despair by engaging in violent rituals with the hope of restoring their self-esteem. They recalled the glory days as they blamed others for their misfortune and loss of power. They could not navigate a society in which bodies that were once their property now had to be respected as equal human beings. Bodies they believed to be cursed, yet were being supported and given privileges by an oppressive government. In their frustration and suffering, overwhelmed by a stalled economy, clinging to their symbols of pride, they declared the South will rise again. Thank you. Numerous post-Civil War testimonies revealed the terrorizing horrors experienced by emancipated Africans. A Louisiana newspaper informed its readers, the true station of the Negro is that of a servant. The wants and state of our country demand that we should remain, or that he should remain, a servant. One man claimed that over 2,000 colored people were murdered in 1865 in an area of Shreveport, Louisiana. Thank you. Another reported in 1866, after some kind of dispute with some freedmen, a group near Pine Bluff, Arkansas, set fire to a black settlement and rounded up the inhabitants. A man who visited the scene the following morning found a sight that appalled him. 24 Negro men, women, and children were hanging from all the trees near the cabins. Story after story describes the terror and trauma experienced by African Americans during Reconstruction. Since 2015, I believe we have been living a new era of Reconstruction, an era of Neo-Reconstruction, that is an era of deconstructionist violence designed to return to a mythical point in the past. The dynamics of this contemporary movement and moment are marked by the violent aggression that seeks to return us to an imagined golden age of freedom. The South will rise again by making America great again. The pain of loss, the feeling of being taken advantage of, the frustration from job insecurity, the fear of losing a privileged place in the social order has resulted in violent outbursts to attack every identified source of the problem. The nation's sense of social well-being is interpreted by slavocracy, which is a significant motivating feature of Neo-Reconstruction. Neo-Reconstruction thrives on revisionist history and what today is called alternative facts, where Neo-Reconstructionists don't like the story being told, they declare fake news and rewrite the story to meet their needs. As an example, in 1491, America was lost. But in 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, America's found. Now, the truth is, Columbus was lost. Yet that truth doesn't support a narrative of triumphalism. The history of the land has been revised to ignore the stories of the blood that soaks the soil from conquest and colonization. When Neo-Reconstruction tells a story using alternative facts, it says you have the right story, just the wrong facts as you narrate the story. Dr. Ben Carson shared alternative facts as he delivered his first speech as Secretary of HUD. He alternatively identified kidnapped, commodified, and brutalized Africans as immigrants. He said, white immigrants worked that they might have an opportunity in this land. That's what America is about, a land of dreams and opportunity. There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, who worked even longer, even harder for less. But they too had a dream that one day their sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandsons, great-granddaughters might pursue prosperity and happiness in this land. Fake news, revisionist history. Unmask the slavocracy that is defining Neo-Reconstruction and see the ways Obama has become synonymous and symbolic of otherness. Many important national decisions have been identified as eliminating Obama's this and that. Listen to recent headlines. Trump eliminates Obama-era rule that protects Americans' internet privacy. Trump pulls back Obama-era protections for women workers. Trump signs executive order rolling back Obama-era energy regulations. Trump rolls back 2 Obama-era education regulations. Instead of improving health care and the health care system, it is identified as a fight to repeal Obamacare. Obama is no longer the president of the United States, yet he is still discussed as though he continues to occupy the Oval Office. That's the way slavocracy functions within Neo-Reconstruction. Every thought and decision is stimulated by a preoccupation with the one perceived to be the problem. Our nation's slavocracy remains disguised because we want to believe there is freedom and justice for all. We want to believe that separate and unequal is a system of the past. We want to believe that we are no longer preoccupied with the Hamitic curse. Rabbi Michael Lerner speaks of the era of Neo-Reconstruction by declaring, "Suddenly, anti-Semitism is back. Over 100 headstones in a Jewish cemetery in Philadelphia were overturned in a hate act early Sunday, February 26, a week after a similar assault on a Jewish cemetery in Missouri. Since the election of Donald Trump, there have been hundreds of incidents of bomb threats to Jewish institutions, 20 more on Monday, February 27th, along with college campuses reporting a dramatic rise in anti-Semitic graffiti. The National Council of Churches declared in February, "For months now, there has been a sharp rise in threats made against synagogues and Jewish community centers. There have been at least 67 incidents at 56 Jewish community centers in 27 states and one Canadian province since the beginning of 2017. Neo-Reconstruction is Islamophobic. New Hampshire State Representative Ken Weiler, a Republican, wrote in a testimony submitted to the State House, he declared, "Islam is an ideology posing as a religion. Islam is intolerant and deceitful, and its adherents are ordered to overthrow our way of life and to replace it with Sharia law. Rather than neo-reconstructionist, going on medication to address its Islamophobia, people like Dr. Ben Carson pathologize Islam, saying Muslims are able to participate in American democratic society only if they're schizophrenic. Neo-Reconstruction has provoked researchers to study the pain being experienced by white Americans. Dr. Ann Case declared, "There are two Americas. There's an America for people who have gotten a college degree and an America for people who have not gotten a college degree. And if you had a checklist of well-being, the people without college degrees are getting worse and worse, and people with college degrees are doing very well. A major detriment to wellness is the widespread erosion of institutions that provided stability in American life for much of the 20th century. The manufacturing industry, the faith community, unions and stable marriages are the institutions that Case identified, and Case continues. These changes left people with less structure when they came to choose their careers, their religions, and the nature of their family lives. When such choices succeed, they are liberating. When they fail, people are thrown into isolation and despair. Leaders for the next, in an era of neo-reconstruction, must see that there are 2 or 3 Americas in the United States. And for our leadership to be effective, you must always know which narrative of America you are serving. In order to form a more perfect union during the Reconstruction of the 19th century, an emphasis was placed upon education, labor, family, with religion as an organizing force. In the 21st century, Dr. Case identifies education, industry, religion, marriage, and family to be the most significant institutions for addressing Neo-Reconstruction. If any or all of these institutions fail, life deteriorates into a violent rage as people gasp for air. Leaders for the next in an era of Neo-Reconstruction must recognize the extreme violence focused on deconstructing progressive agendas, and we must see it as terrorism. The violent deconstruction of Neo-Reconstruction is a spiritual restlessness that longs for the affirmations of goodness and greatness to give life meaning. As a community of religious and spiritual learners, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to educate leaders who will care for people suffering from declining labor markets, who will be faith companions as people walk through the valley of the shadow of death, who will support people through relational and familial crises, who will courageously confront the evil that assaults human dignity. Don't just limit your exegetical and hermeneutical skills to scriptural pericope. Draw upon your analytical skills to see the deeply woven roots of human suffering. Courageously name the evil that is assaulting the least, the lonely, and the lost, wherever they may be found. With creativity and compassion, seek to do justice as you call everyone to responsibility and accountability. We must be the leaders the world needs the most. Thank you for your attention. Because this is not a typical Wednesday chapel, we did want to allow some time for folks to have Q&A from this presentation. I mean, you'll have table conversation at lunch, but you might want to ask me something more directly from what I've attempted to frame for us. There is a mic in the back.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. I have a question. One of your last points was that the sort of, I guess, impetus or perhaps a thrust behind this Neo-Reconstruction, you said it's a spiritual longing for affirmation. Why a spiritual longing and not political or economic kind of effort?
It's manifesting through the political system, but it really is something that I'm identifying as deeper. That's the context for the expression, but the expression really is something more existential. that it is this spiritual longing, that we are still striving to know who we are in the world and to have relationship with this higher being, with God who created us. And the way we are interpreting that struggle that is deep down is through our political and social engagements.
So Dr. Butler, so when you start talking about the analytical part, so that is that at the point that you start analyzing when you're talking about that spiritual existential energy and that need for a higher connection, that you analyze the environment as from a spiritual perspective instead of a carnal perspective?
Now that's more saying that I don't want us to compartmentalize. That we have a way through our educational system of compartmentalizing what we're doing. We're learning this to do this in this space, and we're learning this to do this in that space. I'm saying break down all the compartments that we have used in our learning and pull it all together to use in everything that we do. So don't just use all of your exegetical and hermeneutical skills to look at the text, because even when you're looking at the text, you're raising questions about culture and language and how this created the context for the message itself. I'm saying take those skills and use them in everything you're doing, which is what I was trying to demonstrate at the beginning of this message. I'm saying I'm taking all of my analyticals and interpreting everything I'm seeing, and now I'm bringing this down through, so you get to the end, like when you're developing a sermon, you got all your facts straight, and you get to the end, you say, so what? And then you go beyond to say, this is why I've gone through all this. And so I got to the point of this to say, here's my so what. Here's why I went through all of the details about human interaction and about the history and interpreting the history and the things that marked the history, and to say that history is what we are experiencing now. What did they do then? What are they doing now? What do we need to do given these facts? That we really need to be engaging all of these issues as we are studying the living human document. Take those interpretive skills, apply it to the living human document. Now that I can see it, I know what to do.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. One of the things that I was reflecting on, especially as you were talking about the language of rolling back Obama era accomplishments, has to do with sort of the inextricability of progress and reaction. That there's sort of, it's easy to think in a moment that you're either in a moment of pure progress or pure reaction. But I hear you suggesting something more complicated than that, and I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit on that as we think about how to respond to our current moment.
The way I presented it in my reflection is to say that we don't like change as human beings. We don't like things left to chance as human beings. And our natural inclination, when something disrupts our lives, our natural inclination is to retreat back to that place and that space and those things that gave our life meaning and made us feel safe and secure. And many of the things that are happening now are creating a sense of uncertainty. But what I'm suggesting is that the uncertainty really is grounded in the slavocracy rather than the democracy. It's grounded in the racial ideologies that have framed what it means to be an American. And those things that are pushing us out of that old definition which was very narrow, even though we speak of it as being more broad and open as the land of opportunity. It was really narrowly defined. And as we are pushing ourselves to live into the fullness of the language, we are retreating to what was really the founding ideas. Those ideas that, to be more specific, when you look at the colonial period, the revolution, and the Congresses that brought about the Constitution, a lot of the negotiations were languaged around freedom, but how do we maintain our slaves as property? So how can you on one hand talk about we want to be free, we want to liberate ourselves from our oppressor, but we're going to oppress this people because they're our property. And we don't want to lose our property. So for those that are striving to say, I'm a human being, and the document declares it is my human right to strive for freedom, to not be limited by these oppressive laws. I'm living into what your document declares. There is resistance to that. I mean, there's progress to say everybody's welcome, but then there's a resistance to say, no, you're not quite human enough to be welcome. And we see it happening not just in matters of color. That's one of the big issues that we're finding with our struggle around gay and lesbian persons. The marriage equality was all about, well, marriage is a human institution. Y'all ain't human. Y'all can't have this. Progress says, let's reevaluate what we really believe. And now that we're being pushed to say what we really believe, we're declaring, well, I thought that I wanted to believe that, but I don't think I really do. And I've heard that. I'm going to sit down after this. I've heard that even within theological education, where one seminary declared, we want to be, I'm not talking about CTS. We want to be a profoundly diverse institution. We've been historically white. Now we want everybody to be a part of our educational process because we recognize that it is through diversity that the greatest amount of learning takes place. And so they proceeded to diversify their faculty in every way. And when those persons that they brought in began to express themselves from their particularity, rather than maintaining what the institution always had been, those other voices said, oh, wait a minute. We thought we wanted diversity, but now that you're here, we decide we don't want it. And one by one, each of those persons they brought in to diversify had to leave because they made it uncomfortable for folks on that faculty to stay. That's how Neo-Reconstruction is working. You're being made uncomfortable and pushed out so that there can be the space that makes us comfortable again. Let's close the borders. Let's redefine what it means to be an immigrant and who can come in. And it's all about our security. We don't want that change. Thank you.
Yes.
So again, we want to thank Dr. Butler for that lecture.
Thank him for answering our questions and provoking our thoughts. One of the things he talked about was not compartmentalizing. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, particularly in this session, but throughout the day, was to utilize all of our gifts and talents to address this subject matter. So in music, in spoken word, in art, as well as our scholarship, we will address that today. And so as we go to our next session, to the lunch conversations, I want to give a few housekeeping items, and then I will bring back Jessica Dessou to do her final piece, as well as the Reverend LaDonna Sanders Nkosi. Reverend LaDonna is a global minister and a public poet who paints with poetry and spoken word to bring healing, uncover truths, and speak life over people, communities, and nations. She is the founder and convener of The Gathering Chicago, a community of prayer, global and local in Hyde Park, Chicago, and a global apostle commissioned by Faith in Action in Durban, South Africa. She is also a friend. We were at McCormick together, and I know her to be a profound poet and scholar. And so after FM Supreme and Reverend LaDonna, we will go to the dining room for our conversations. I would ask that if you have not picked up your name tags, that you would pick them up on the table outside. There is also additional information on further activities here at CTS. We also want to acknowledge the art that you do see in the hallway, and there is further information about our artists that are out there as well. And so at this time, I bring back to the stage FM Supreme and then Reverend LaDonna. Thank you.
All right, how you guys feeling? Y'all real quiet in here. I'm used to hanging out with young people with a lot of energy. So this poem, actually I wrote last summer. I co-wrote, actually, a friend and I. We wrote in Trinidad. We were blessed to travel there with my mentor, Reverend Dr. Ivor Carruthers and Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright. And it was right after, I guess I was a victim of racial violence, if you will, verbally. Last time I went viral, 40 million hits after having an interview with Megyn Kelly, and I experienced like the most racism I've ever experienced in my life, from death threats to just messages all online. And so when I went to Trinidad with Dr. Carruthers and Reverend Wright, it was for the Transatlantic Roundtable on Religion and Race, and it was around Emancipation Day, and so there were people from all across the diaspora there in Trinidad to celebrate Emancipation Day, and I had never felt more, I guess, more proud of my culture, and so this poem comes from that. This is that in the beginning, Black, that ancient Egypt first civilization, Black, that we built the pyramids with our own bare hands, bare bones, Black. This is that real Black, as a matter of fact. This is that Socrates and Hippocrates claiming ancient Kemetic philosophies as their own Black. This is that educated Black that got a degree yet almost dropped out of high school Black. This is that pick up your pants, put on a belt, get a job, and yet you still can get shot in your back Black. This is that last hired Black, that first fired Black. This is that no pension Black. This is that mass incarcerated Black. This is that self-hating Black, that capitalism Black, that colonial mindset, light skin and got good hair and fair skin Black. This is that Michael Jackson Black, that ball playing, entertaining, hat paying, slave nigga Black. This is that upgrade my house on slave plantations Black. This is that Louisiana Black, that Hurricane Katrina, you left me to fend for myself Black. That when I tried to survive, the media labeled me as a looter Black. This is that miseducated, I don't love myself, so I might be the shooter Black. This is that Black bodies is dying Black. This is that trying hard to love my brother Black. This is that trying hard to love my sister Black. This is that I am my brother's keeper, black. This is that I am my sister's keeper, black. This is that 400 years living under Pharaoh, black. That wandered in the wilderness, losing sight of the promised land, black. This is that 40 years in the wilderness that turned into the 44th president, Barack, black. This is that every morning I wake up, I thank God he made me black, black. This is that bronze feet and hair like wool, black. That John the Baptist make way for the spirit of the Lord Jesus is coming back, black. This is that Trinidad black, that Cataloo mixed with gumbo, that Creole black, that Haitian Revolution, Toussaint Louverture black, that Denmark VC black, that Nat Turner black. This is that David Walker black. This is that Sojourner Truth black. This is that I'm walking with the youth black. This is that Ella Baker black. This is that say her name black. This is that it's our duty to fight for our freedom black. This is that group-centered leadership black, that Asada black. This is that all talking, no action, all talking, no policy agenda, no doing nothing black. This is that righteous anger black. This is that beautiful black, that black that don't crack. This is that love my neighbor as I love myself black. This is that all black lives matter black. This is that black queer lives matter black. This is that still our rise black. This is that pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps black. This is that Ferguson black, that hands up, don't shoot us black, that Chicago black, that genocide on all sides black, that extrajudicial killings black, that no justice, no peace black, that abolish the police black. This is that be all you can be black. This is that still believing Jesus black. This is that faith without works is dead black. This is that bullet to the head black. This is don't fear us black. This is that Lord, do you hear us black? This is that get up out your seat black. This is that Rosa Parks black, turning lectures into action items black. This is that single black mother struggling to take care of her 5 black kids black. This is that black father who the world has already given up on. This is that black child who the world has already given up on black. This is that black father who questions why the world hates him black. This is that real black. This is that native tongues black, that I don't know how to speak my own language black. This not that famous black. This not entertainment black. This Reverend Jeremiah A. Wright black. This is Pastor Otis Moss III black. This is Reverend Dr. Ivor Carruthers black. This is that radical black. This said I ain't taking nothing from nobody black. This is that humble yourself first black. This is that give back black. This is black. In the beginning, it was black, black. Thank y'all.
Well, we thank God for the poets. Can we put our hands together for the poets? The artists today for the message today. And that, thank you, Dr. Butler. I also want to thank Dr. Terrell for manifesting the vision to weave the arts, for through every culture, the poets speak. The music soothes our souls, and in South Africa, it was, and really even here too, it was a way to convey the message of I'm breaking out of here. So I pray that in this time that we are revived again, and that the message of I am breaking out goes forth. There's a few pieces that spin for us today, but one in particular that I would be remiss if I didn't do in this conversation about leaders for the next. For we certainly don't want to focus just on this American soil, U.S. American soil. But I just want to invoke the sisters and brothers across the nations who are impacted greatly about what happens and is happening here. Next week, we'll be traveling to Durban, South Africa, where we will be gathering leaders across generations from South Africa to engage with leaders here in the U.S. So in honor of that, I just want to bring this piece. Amen. It says, Si vusilele, which means revive us again. Revive us again. Si vusilele, co su Jesu. se lele, amen. Si vous se lele, kosu Jésus. Si vous se lele, hallelujah, dumoloake. Hallelujah, amen. Hallelujah, dumoloake. Si vous se lele, revive us again. Revive us again, O God. Revive us again. Revive us again, O God. Revive us again. Suddenly, in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again. Suddenly, in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again. Brown, black, rich, sweet, brilliant, me. Suddenly, in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again. And I miss that here. I miss that here, where black is seen as black, a spot in a sea of whiteness, an accident, a mishap, an oversight. And we must hide her. And she hides herself behind stacks and stacks of books and many big words and high-powered positions. But suddenly, in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again, where the curvedness and the roundness and the brownness of me is beautiful, is expected, is beheld, is beloved, baked, brown, round, and beautiful, me. Suddenly, in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again, and somehow the South African air didn't ash or dry my skin over, but the sun and the climate conditioned me, and I was vibrant and supple and alive. And my hair just grew and grew and grew and grew from the nurture and the nourishment and the affirmation there. And cold brown eyes that pierce with expression, they were not the exception, but the rule. And more than every other person looked just like me. Oh, suddenly in remembering South Africa, I'm in love with my skin again, and I'm alive again, and I am radiant again, and I am beautiful again, and I am born again, and I am me again. This is remembering South Africa. And our prayer for the leaders for the next is that we can immerse ourselves in environments where we can be alive again as we go forth in these times. Amen. Si vous lele kosu Jésus. Si vous lele, amen. Si vous lele kosu Jésus. si você lele, revive us again. Amen.